10:32. Shall we start? Okay. We'll start with 3 ohms. Sahana vavatu sahanau bhunaktu sahaviryam karavavahai tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. I offer my salutations to the entire lineage of Gurus, starting from Lord Shiva to Shankaracharya to my own teachers. Atma Rupa, Bandhugana, dear members of my extended family who are no other than the expressions of the Paramatma, the Universal Self. I am very happy to be here with you this morning and for the opportunity to share with you some of my thoughts about the ultimate goal of human life and how to reach it. Firstly, I want to acknowledge that a significant portion of the content that I am going to share with you today was inspired by an Anugraha Bhashanam by Chandrasekhara Saraswati, the Mahaswami of Sringeri Sharda Pitham. The Anugraha Bhashanam by Bharati Tirtha Swami. Who is the Mahaswami of Sringeri Sardhapitam, supplemented by the teachings of Swami Vivekananda, Sri Ramakrishna, and lectures I heard over the years from great Swamijis of our times like Swami Chinmayananda, Swami Tejomananda, Swami Sarvapriyananda of the Ramakrishna order, and Swami Tattvavidananda of the Dayananda ashram. Obviously, when we talk about liberation, the topic of today, it's all about spirituality. But even before I dive into today's topic, let me address one fundamental question. Why should I bother about spirituality at all, since I'm perfectly happy with myself right now, maybe with a few road bumps here and there, but I'm fine overall. How many of you feel that way? Can I have a show of hands? Yeah, which is perfectly a valid argument. Let me assure you, you are not alone in this kind of thinking. This is very legitimate, raised by lots of people, since we live in a scientific age and most of us think logically and pretty content leading a good moral, ethical life. This kind of view looks very reasonable when we view life at a very superficial level. But when we examine the lives of some of the best scientific minds of our age, like Einstein, Nikola Tesla, who was the pioneer of static electricity, he was a contemporary of Edison, and interestingly, the Tesla vehicle, they borrowed the brand name from that family. So basically Nikola Tesla and Oppenheimer, on whom there was a movie that was made, who led the Manhattan Project, we will find a great synthesis of science and spirituality in their lives, which really made them stand out from the crowd. Einstein, despite his deep scientific orientation, once said, "I believe in Spinoza's God, who reveals himself in the orderly harmony of what exists, not in a God who concerns himself with the fates and actions of human beings." By Spinoza's God, what we mean is a God that is immanent. Immanent means all-pervading through this entire creation, but not someone who is like a dictator, rewarding and punishing people based on his whims and fancies. We'll touch upon the immanent nature of God a little later in this talk. So the bottom line is, even Einstein believed in God. Another data point I would like to share with you. There was a study conducted by the American Psychological Association during COVID about how the pandemic affected different segments of our population. One fact that really stood out for them in that study is COVID hospitalizations, depressions, and deaths were significantly lower among people of religious faith. Psychologists met with the various religious leaders across different faiths and said, "We don't know why, but the fact is irrefutable that the religious folk coped much better in times of great disasters and calamities." Sri Ravi Shankar of the Art of Living, he, in one of his speeches, he narrated a very interesting thing that happened in the Soviet Russia. When communism took hold shortly after World War II, all the churches in the Soviet Union were demolished, and in their place, swimming pools rose up. But 4 decades later, with the collapse of the communism, churches sprang up again all over the place. This lent support to the argument that in periods of uncertainty, suffering, turmoil, etc., religion and spirituality undeniably provides strong mental support to cope with whatever world throws at us with no prior warning. Also, despite all the tremendous scientific advancements that took place over the last couple of centuries, do not expect science to solve all of humanity's problems, or neither is it a panacea to all those ills that plague human lives. Science itself sometimes runs into a dilemma, unable to explain this phenomenal world in a definitive way. Look at some of the profound discoveries of the last century. Gödel's incompleteness theorems, Heisenberg's principle of uncertainty, and Einstein's theory of relativity. Look at the words incompleteness, uncertainty, relativity. I am in no way undermining the importance of the contributions of science in improving the quality of our lives over the last several centuries, but just pointing out its limitations. Once a scientist asked Dalai Lama, "How can Buddhism or spirituality help in the advancement of science?" He thought for a few seconds and said, "When it comes to understanding the human body and making life more comfortable, we have to lean on science. But when it comes to understanding the mind and the peace and joy of oneself and humanity at large, we need to come to spirituality." No doubt, money and worldly possessions bring more comfort to life, but there is no guarantee that they can make us all happy. If that were the case, all millionaires and billionaires and celebrities would have been the happiest people on this planet. But we all know that's not the case. With some of them, like Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade, with plenty of money, name and fame, they resorted to, unfortunately, suicides. Therefore, I believe what is needed is a proper synthesis of scientific thinking and spirituality to tackle human problems at an individual level and the global level. Excluding one for the other, I feel, is likely to lead to incomplete solutions, denying a holistic and fulfilling life. By the way, Swami Vivekananda, who was the first Hindu monk to come to US to popularize Hinduism, he was a strong believer in the synthesis of science and spirituality. And he had a very, very strong following. I don't know how many of you know, right on the west side of Central Park, there is a Vedanta Society building that shows this building dates back to 1884. And a lot of people, 1894, a lot of people, when they pass by the building, they take a second look and say, wow, what is this organization that has been there for more than 100 years? So, I think his teachings had a very, very profound influence on the thought leaders at those times. Coming to our today's topic, liberation made easy, we are going to delve into what is liberation, why do we want it, and then talk about devotion as the easiest path to attain it. Liberation to be attained in this very life, not post-mortem, but here and now. Like our kids often demand, I want it now. So that is the whole theme of this conversation. Let's first tackle the notion that this is not for people like us, but meant for those who are renunciates and those who live in a Himalayan cave. This notion could not be farther from the truth and is merely based on what is our gross misunderstanding of liberation and its applicability to our day-to-day lives. We all know that Gita was given by Lord Krishna to Arjuna on the battlefield, not to some kind of a monk or a renunciate in a Himalayan cave. So most of our spiritual teachings, they have a very strong bearing on how we lead a very happy and fulfilling life. One definition of liberation is Atyantika Dukkha Nivritti Paramananda Prapti. What that is basically means is cessation of all kinds of sorrows in life and attainment of supreme joy or bliss. Gita chapter 6 verse 22 says, Yam labdhva chaparam labham manyate nadhikam tataha yasmin stitona dukkena gurunapi vichalyate. So what it means is, having gained that state of realization, one does not consider any other gain superior to it. Being situated in it, one is not shaken even by the greatest sorrow in life. Gita chapter 12 verse 15 also describes one who is established in this state as Yasmin stitena dukkena. Sorry, that was what I covered in the previous verse. Yasman no dvijite loko, lokan no dvijite chayaha, means one who is neither disturbed by the world or he disturbs the world. Swami Ranganathananda of the Ramakrishna Mission describes liberation as a state when you close your eyes, you experience supreme peace within. And when you open your eyes, your attitude is, what can I do for you? All that is coming because of total fullness within oneself. Another word for liberation is enlightenment. basically what it means is lightening up your heart or spirit, that is lifting oneself from the heavy burdens of life. In other words, not living like beasts of burden, but with an aspiration, awareness, and spiritual striving by awakening a deeper purpose in your life. Having now understood what is liberation is in these layman's terms, I hope none of you feel that you do not want liberation. We all know that we are going to depart this world one day. So, don't you want to convert some of your wealth here in terms of money, relationships, etc., into foreign exchange before you drop this body? All Indic religions believe in the theory of rebirth, and even some of the psychologists of the West are embracing this theory to treat cases of intense phobias and anxiety. Have any of you heard about a book called Many Lives, Many Masters? No? This was written by a very famous psychologist called Brian Weiss. Check it out. I think you will find it a very interesting reading. Even in the news, we hear lots of stories of people who carry memories from their past lives with no connection whatsoever to their current lives and their family settings. Brian Weiss actually treated a very, very hard case, and then he became a strong believer in the theory of rebirth, because none of the problems that the phobias and problems that the patient was facing, they were related to this life. But he was able to, through hypnosis, take her back to previous lives, and though he got convinced about the theory of rebirth, he never wanted to share it with his colleagues, because it's like a heresy in the West to believe in rebirth. But at some point in time, he said, this is something which I need to share with my colleagues to make sure that they benefit this kind of a treatment and provide the therapy to basically get rid of some of the ailments that are affecting the mental patients. I don't need to go very far to convince myself about the theory of rebirth. My wife had a cousin in her childhood, and she is probably at the same age as my wife, and she was born in a family that is completely vegetarians. But when she was like 2 years old, she used to talk to her mom and dad and the other people, saying that my mom made a fish soup today. So they were not quite sure, where she is getting this information. They thought basically she is playing with some of the kids of her age who may be talking about the fish curry and fish soup and things like that, but they could not find anybody who was eating fish in her friend circle. And strange thing is, anytime on the radio or on the television, somebody is playing a violin, she used to shiver. And slowly, her dad started asking her some questions, some probing questions about what she remembers and what is actually causing this. And then she said, there is a village, probably like about 30 miles from here. I was born there. This is my name. And the dad, out of sheer curiosity, he went to that village and he inquired, and they found a lady with that name, and then they asked, did you ever have a girl with this name? She said yes. She passed away like about 3-4 years back, and then they wanted to probe more about this violin connection. Looks like she had a maternal uncle who raped her when she was like 16 years old, and then she she was thrown into a well to die. So those memories carried into the current life. And when once I hear stories like this is not like a news item or somebody's speculation, but this is real in their family. Of course, over a period of time, she forgot the memories of her past life and she is able to lead a normal life. But this is a very, very compelling story I heard, which convinced me beyond doubt about the theory of rebirth. And of course, in the news stories, I also read there was a lady who was born in US. She never visited UK, but she used to always think about her two sons in UK, John and Rich. And she used to tell a lot of stories about how close she was to both the sons, about the village where she was living. So somebody really went there, inquired, and they found John and Rich, who are like about 60 years old men. But when they inquired about their mother, they did say that she was very loving, she had this kind of a name, but for whatever reason, she passed away about 30 years back, and now this lady is like about 20 years old or 25 years old. So they found a very, very strong connection between the story that she was telling and the facts on the ground. So basically it comes back to the foreign exchange that we are talking about here is performing meritorious deeds, which includes devotion to the Lord, which is an expression of gratitude for what He already bestowed upon us. So I think it's very important for us to get some of our wealth converted into that foreign exchange. Okay, I want liberation, but is this the real deal or simply someone's fanciful imagination? The answer that it is real is an emphatic yes, per our scriptures. Because we live in a scientific age, the question often raised is, you want us to blindly swallow all this, whatever you say, just because some sage or rishi whom we never met and never even heard of said this? And that's a fair question. As a matter of fact, our scriptures say, do not blindly believe anything, but question and analyze anything you hear. That's why all our scriptures, Upanishads, Gita, they are all in a dialogue form. The teacher, when he says something and it doesn't gel well with the disciple based on his own understanding, he is very much encouraged to raise questions. In fact, our scriptures say that anything that you hear, you have to validate in 3 different ways. They are called Shruti. Shruti means what our scriptures say. Then Yukti. Yukti is logic. And the third one is Anubhuti, your own experience. If it cannot be validated by all the 3 means, don't believe it. So, talking about liberation, our Shruti of course says liberation is possible, and the Yukti, the logic that we apply here is when we look at the human history, we find various saintly people, great men across all faiths and geographies, even some of the acharyas and swamis that we come across in our day-to-day lives today that radiate peace, happiness and love, and everywhere they go, that is what they do despite having little to no worldly possessions. All of us heard about Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda, Ramana Maharshi and Nisargadatta Maharaj, who lived right until 1980s, who lived in all these people who lived in the midst of us until very recently. Our Puranas also speak about a bandit turned rishi, Valmiki, simply by taking the name of God and turning spiritual and then giving us a great gift of Ramayana. When it comes to Anubhuti, validating through our own experiences, we find proof by experiencing relative calm and peace within ourselves, even as we start traversing this path. A little bit in our daily lives. Gita says, again, this is from chapter 2, verse 40, Svalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat, which means even a little bit of spirituality saves us from an enormous fear. So with the help of Shruti, Yukti and Anubhuti, we can see that spirituality and liberation are not some mumbo-jumbo, but real and attainable. Okay, the next question is, I'm interested, but is it difficult? The answer is, like most of the questions, it depends. So what does it depend on? Two things, the means that we choose and how serious we are about it. It's almost like asking, how long would it take to reach LA from New York? So as we all know, if you walk, maybe 6 to 9 months, but if you take a bike, maybe 3 to 4 months. But if you take a bus, faster, take a train, even faster, and finally, if you take a plane, a couple of hours. So in the same way, it is possible to fast track it depending on the means that we choose and how serious we are about it. We talked about Nisargadatta Maharaj, and he attained liberation in just 3 years. How? First of all, he had faith in his teacher and firmly believed in his guru's teachings and lived his life accordingly, even as he was doing all his daily work and fulfilling his family obligations. I don't know how many of you know, but Nisargadatta Maharaj, he used to live in Mumbai, Dharavi, the biggest slum in Asia, and for living he used to sell pan and bidis. He never gave up his job because that is something which is needed to sustain himself and his family. But all his spare time he was devoting single-mindedly to the pursuit of this highest truth. He firmly believed, probably you read that book called You Are That, which basically is from a Mahavakya called Tattvamasi. And that is how he led his 3 years and he became realized. He is not very well educated. I think he just did like about 2nd grade or 3rd grade. So education is not a consideration. Social background is not a consideration. The only two are the means you choose and how serious you are about it. Okay, now moving on to the next question. Okay, I want it, it's real, and it's not difficult. But what's the hurry? I have so many years, and maybe I can undertake this at a later stage in my life. In other words, why intensity and focus? Vivek Chudamani, a great work by Adi Shankaracharya, it says, Durlabham trayame vaitat, daivanugraha karanam, daivanugraha hetukam, manushyatvam, mumutshutvam, mahapurusha samshaya. What it means is, there are 3 things which are very, very difficult in this life. One thing is being born as a human being. And the second thing is a burning desire for liberation to basically reach the acme of the human potential. And the third thing is the company of people who can guide us on this path. As we all know, there are 80s, in India they call it 86 lakhs, but here it is 8.6 million. Different kinds of species that you can have when you count all the living beings, like the plants, animals, even germs, worms, all kinds of animals, human being is just one species. That's very, very special. That is where we can learn from others quickly and contribute our own line of thinking. So, because we all believe in the theory of rebirth, there is no guarantee that we will be born again as human beings. So, basically they say don't fritter away this valuable opportunity because we don't know when the next human birth is going to come. Sri Ramakrishna, or Sri Ramakrishna I use for Ramakrishna Paramhamsa, tells a story of a washerman in India who found a very unusual stone lying on the riverbank where he used to wash clothes. He got fascinated, picked it up, and used to scrub clothes with it. After a few days, he showed it to his friend who is a vegetable seller. The vegetable seller said, "Hey, this looks different. If you give it to me, I'll give you 5 pounds of potatoes." Credit goes to the washerman, he did not give it yet. But then he showed it to his friend who is a grocery store guy. He said, "Yeah, this looks completely different. I would like to have it, but I would give you in exchange 50 pounds of rice." Still, the washerman did not give it to him. Then he showed it to a jewelry store owner in his village. And the jewelry store owner exclaimed, "This is the biggest uncut diamond I have ever seen in life, and I'll give you 1 million rupees for it." Most of us are like the washerman, wasting this precious life to chase mundane pleasures that are available even to some of the lowly creatures, like worms in a cesspool, rather than to accomplish the highest possible human achievement. Somerset Maugham, talking about the pleasures, Somerset Maugham in his Razor's Edge, he says that if you single-mindedly chase pleasures, you will soon find there is nothing pleasing anymore in this world. I'm not saying deny yourself the pleasures, but drive that balance in life so that you are not just keeping all the money that you have without converting it to foreign exchange before we undertake the journey beyond this life. Among us humans, how many turn our attention towards spiritual knowledge? Very few even raise questions like, who am I? What is the true essence of my being? What is the purpose of my life? What is this world? Who created this world? And what is my relationship to the Creator? Lord Krishna says in Gita, chapter 7, verse 3, sometimes I am just quoting them so that you know that I am not making up things, and if you want to actually reference this to do your own study, you can use them. In Gita, chapter 7, verse 3, Lord Krishna says, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatate siddhaye yatatam api siddhanam kaschin mam vetti tattvataha. What that means is, among thousands of people, one may strive to know the truth, and among those, only one rare individual will know the truth. When I talk about the truth, the ultimate reality, beyond this changing world. Even if there is a burning desire to know the truth, rare is the one who has access to a capable teacher, who can guide him or her on the right path. As the clock is ticking and life is ebbing away, the time we have is limited, and we better use this time effectively. As we said, we don't know when we get the next human birth. Okay. Now, I am convinced that liberation is my goal. I am eager to get it in this very life. Now tell me, how do I go about it? Sometimes I even hear that it's pretty hard to attain liberation, since first we need to obtain the requisite qualifications. They're called sadhana chatushtaya sampatti. Did any of you hear this word before? Sadhana chatushtaya sampatti. For jnana yoga, these are the 4 requisite qualifications. It says viveka. Viveka means discernment of the real and the unreal. Vairagya means dispassion for things that are fleeting. Viveka, Vairagya. Third one is called Shamadhi, Shat Sampatti. The sixfold virtues, starting with the mind control, sense control, and things like that. That is called Shamadhi, Shat Sampatti. And the last one is called Mumukshutvam. Mumukshutvam means a burning desire to attain the highest, the liberation. When most people hear about the fourfold qualifications needed on the path of jnana, all their enthusiasm evaporates quickly as the list looks daunting. Oh my God, the acquisition of these qualifications itself is going to take several decades. So, some of you might be wondering, where is the question of liberation here and now? And why did you bring us here on a Saturday morning, wasting our time and touting liberation made easy? I just want you to know that your time won't be wasted and it will be well worth it, as I am going to reveal to you the easy button for liberation. Suffice it to say, you are at the right place and at the right time. So please pay attention for the next 30 minutes. Of course, the prerequisites or the sadhana chatushtaya that we talked about are what are required for jnana yoga, which is very demanding. Also, for jnana, you need a pure mind devoid of all negative tendencies like passion, greed, jealousy, etc. A lot of people also say, my mind is so dirty, so how can I begin my spiritual pursuit? Which is a very valid concern. But there is an alternate path called the Bhakti Yoga, or the path of devotion, which is much easier, and that's what we are going to focus on now. Both Bhakti and Jnana lead to the same goal, but Bhakti path is considered much more sadhaka or practitioner friendly, because the prerequisite is just one and very simple. That is the ability to love God. All of us know what is love and how to love somebody. We love so many things already in this world. I love my spouse, I love my children, I love my dog, I love my cat. So just add one more to the list, love for God. As we are all busy people, perhaps just 5 minutes in a day to love God. Getting one's mind ready for jnana is like tidying up a house before you receive a VIP. On the other hand, to start on the bhakti path, it is much more like inviting your mom to your house. If the house is dirty, don't worry, she will clean it up for you and won't even ridicule you for not keeping it clean. So, invite God into the house of your mind and He will clean it up for you of all the negative tendencies that we have. Path of bhakti is also easy, as it is often compared to Madhyala Kishora Nyaya, which is like the relationship between the cat and its kitten. The kitten merely cries, meow, meow, and the mother can attend to its needs and takes care of the baby, even carrying it very carefully by mouth from house to house. Path of jnana is compared to Markata Kishora Nyaya. This is when a monkey is jumping from tree to tree. It's a responsibility of the baby to tightly cling and hold on to its mother. If not, the baby monkey can take a big fall and get injured. So, Madhyala Kishora Nyaya, like a cat and kitten, that is the bhakti, and Markata Kishora Nyaya is like a monkey and its baby, where there is a lot of responsibility on the individual. He cannot cry for God to come and help him. So, the easy path. Chandrasekhar Saraswati, the Paramacharya of Kanchi and one of the greatest Shankaracharyas of modern times, used to employ a simple method to initiate people on the path of bhakti. He was once addressing a large gathering of devotees, and after his talk, scores of people approached him to seek his blessings and to offer Guru Dakshina, which included money, jewelry, and expensive clothes. He said, "I am a sannyasi, I am a renunciate that leads a very simple life. Of what use are all these expensive gifts to me? Instead, if you really want to give me something, I can ask for something else." In one voice, all the audience said, "Yes, please ask." Then he said, "In that case, can you give me 5 minutes in your day, every day?" And again the reply came, "Of course. That's very kind of you, but because you are giving that time to me, that is mine, and you should utilize those 5 minutes in a way I asked you to. Okay? That block of 5 minutes every day, you cannot take it back, and you should devote that to God, chanting His name without any distraction. No multitasking, just chanting His name single-pointedly. Such is the grace of these Mahatmas to bring peace and joy into our lives by leading us towards God one step at a time. So, the question that is often asked is chanting the name of the Lord, which sounds so simple. How can it be that powerful? The problem with most of us is we can't do difficult things. And when Mahatmas give us simple means of reaching God and attaining mental peace, we don't believe in their efficacy. Taking the name of the Lord is like eating the tiny hot pepper. I'm sure most of you have seen tiny needle-like pepper. In Tamil they call it usmalgai. It's like a tiny thin thing, but when you put it in your mouth, it's like a spice bomb. It's so hot, and a lot of people, they have to drink lots and lots of water to neutralize it. Also, here is a scriptural proof on the efficacy of taking the name of the Lord based on Padma Purana. There is a shloka there that says, "Kalau kalmasha chittanam papadravyopajivinam vinapi suddhim yanti Sri Vishnu nama kirtanat." What that means in Kali Yuga, people are of impure minds and live by sinful means. Even without undergoing purification rituals, they become purified simply by chanting the holy name of Vishnu. In Bhagavatam also are described the most effective means of spiritual practice in each one of the 4 yugas. Can anybody tell me what are the 4 yugas per our scriptures? Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you. Yeah. Krita Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. And our scriptures say we are in the Kali Yuga, the last of the 4, and then the cycle repeats. So, this shloka basically says what are the most effective means of spiritual practice. Krite yad jhayato Vishnuhu, Tretayam yajato makhaihi, Dwapare paricharyayam, Kalau tad harikirtanat. So what that translates into is, this is from Bhagavatam, Canto 12, 3rd chapter, 52nd sloka. Whatever result was obtained in Satyuga by meditating on Lord Vishnu, in Treta Yuga by performing yajna or fire sacrifices, and in Dwapara Yuga by deity worship, can be obtained in Kali Yuga simply by chanting the name of the Lord. So there's a profound scriptural validation that taking the name of the Lord is a very effective means of attaining liberation. So take the name of the Lord as much as possible during the day while performing your daily activities, but spend 5 minutes a day exclusively on doing japa. Japa is repetition of the same name of the Lord a number of times. Maybe with the help of a japamala. With the effective use of japamala, what you are trying to do is you will rotate the beads and then you chant the name, and in the mind you imagine the form of the Lord. So what that means is we have mainly 3 different types of organs: mind and your speech and the organs of action. So the hand, the organ of action, the hand is very active because you are rotating the beads and you are chanting the name of the Lord with your mouth, and with the mind you are imagining the form. So you are engaging all 3 types of organs to keep them in sync. And the biggest problem in japa is the mind slips away. When the mind slips away, your beads stop rotating. So you can catch yourself when you are out of focus and gently bring it back. So if you can use a japmala, that will be the most effective way to do it, so that you can watch yourself and bring your mind back. Even in japa, there is a gradation. Ramana Maharshi says in his Upadesh Sara, sloka number 7, he says, Uttamastavad Vuchamandata Chittajam Japa Jhanamuttamam. So what it says is, the lowest form of japa is ucha, or loud. That means we chant the name of the Lord very loudly. One way to know whether it is loud or soft is if the other person can hear it, that means it's loud. It's called parashruti gocharam, which can be known by the other people. Then the next gradation is nobody can hear it, but your lips are moving. That's called the gentle form of japa. Your lips are moving, but they can't hear. That is called swa sruti gocharam. You can hear your own sound of the mantra. And the best, they say, is chittajam japa. That means the mental japa. Your lips are not moving, but the mantra is going on in your mind. It's called upamshu. So as you start practicing your japa, see if you can go from the loud to the subtle. And the more subtle it is, the more effective it will be on you. So keep moving up this ladder in your japa as you keep practicing. As you progress through the different stages in life and your family responsibilities reduce and you get more free time, try to increase the time that you spend on japa gradually. A question may come up at this stage: won't it be boring to do japa like this for a long time? Surely it is. It can be, since it is the tendency of the mind to want variety. We even see it in our day-to-day experience. If somebody is making khichdi all the time at home, you say, can't you not make something different? And when you go to a restaurant, you don't order idli all the time, right? So the mind craves variety. Our scriptures know this, and that's why Bhagavatam gives a variety of devotional practices. Actually, 9 different ways to practice devotion are given to express our love towards the Lord, which are referred to as Navavidha Bhakti. Did any of you hear about Navavidha Bhakti? Fantastic. Can you tell me what they are?
Satsang Bhakti.
Huh?
Satsang Bhakti.
Yeah.
There's kind of like knowledge.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like the one who do seva
Yeah.
at the temple.
Yep. The easiest way to remember is by referring to that sloka in Bhagavatam itself. This is actually narrated by Prahlada. It is from this 5th canto, I think it's actually the 7th canto. I might have actually put the reference down wrong. 7th canto, 23rd shloka. It goes like this. Shravanam kirtanam Vishno smaranam pada sevanam archanam vandanam dasyam sakhyamatmani vedanam. So what it means is, Shravanam means hearing about Lord Vishnu. And very good. Kirtanam means singing his names. Smaranam means basically remembering him. You are recalling about the Lord. Pada Savanam, serving his lotus feet. And then Archanam, worshipping the Lord, like we do in the temple and things like that. You can do it even at home. Kirtanam means offering prayers. Smaranam, I think we already covered that. Archanam, Vandanam means to prostrate to him. Dasyam is serving him as a servant. Sakhyam, considering him as a friend. And then, of course, Atmanivedanam. Atmanivedanam means surrendering everything unto him. I am yours. You are the master, I am the servant. You are the one that make things happen, I am just an instrument in your hand. That is called Atmanivedanam. These 9 processes, when offered to Vishnu, constitute pure devotional service. It does not matter which method of devotion you choose, or if you choose a combination. Different methods may appeal to different people depending on their mental makeup. We often hear different strokes for different folks, right? The whole goal is to somehow keep your mind riveted on the Lord. Even in Bhagavatam, Canto 11, there is a shloka that says, Yana kena prakarena manah krishnam niveshayet, means by whatever means, keep your mind focused on Lord Krishna. As you start cultivating this love for God, in any one of the above ways or a combination, slowly your life begins to transform. The association with God, His names, His stories, and His devotees, which you call satsang, will slowly start increasing. This is often likened to what is called Bhikshu Pada Prasarana Nyaya. Means basically how a sannyasi or a swami occupies a lot of space. Think of this. Imagine you see a saint in your town living under a tree, completely exposed to the natural elements like rain, wind, and sun. You feel compassion for him and invite him to your place and offer him a corner of a room in your house to stay, for which he is very grateful. After a couple of days, he takes out a little idol of Krishna from his bag and says, "Can you please give me another corner of the room to keep my little Krishna?" And you oblige. The next day in the morning, he goes into your garden and plucks a few flowers to decorate that little Krishna. A day later, he asks if it is okay to use a small part of your kitchen to make naivedyam, or a food offering for the baby Krishna. So what you see here is the bhikshu starts expanding his footprint in your house. Similarly, slowly and gradually, God will make sure your association with Him in your daily life keeps expanding. You don't need to make an effort, it just happens. There is no need for you to undertake new or different activities, but weave God into whatever you do anyway during the day. As you wake up in the morning, you remember Mother Earth, an expression of God's Ashtadha Prakriti, the eightfold nature of the Lord. And the very core of our sustenance in this world. Without earth, we can't just live. As you take bath, you remember the sacred waters, another expression of God, to help keep this body alive and clean. As you begin to eat breakfast, you remember God working through various people, pulsating as life in them, starting from farmers, the truckers, to the wholesalers, to the retailers, your supermarket employees, the utility people that help provide electricity or gas to cook, and last but not least, the one in your family, another expression of the Lord, who prepared the delicious breakfast for you to enjoy. So you start seeing the God element pulsating in every person that you are interacting with. Many of us start with devotion to God in one single form, such as Vishnu, Shiva, Devi, whatever is your favorite form, and then broadening that vision to see the same Lord manifesting in many forms. Just as the Upanishads proclaim, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahudha Vadanti. The God is one, or the truth is one, but the wise call it with many names. Just like the same electricity expresses as light in the bulb, sound in the mic, air in the fan, etc. The God is one, but He is expressing in so many different forms to appeal to different people in different ways. As this vision further expands, one begins treating all things and beings in this universe with respect and love, since they are all God's creations. This world is created by God is one core belief shared by all religions, all faiths of the world. Our Mundaka Upanishad also defines Brahman or God as Yatova imani jayante yatra jatani jivanti yatprayant abhisham vishanti. That one from which the world emerges, sustained by it, and unto which it dissolves. Isavasya Upanishad also eloquently states that Ishavashyamidam sarvam yatkincha jagatcham jagat. Whatever you see, whatever you experience in this world is all pervaded by that God principle. The whole world is pervaded by God. There is not a single thing or being in the universe where God is not present. Our Upanishads define God as one who is immanent in this world and at the same time transcendent. Immanent, we said, basically is all-pervading. Transcending means He is not limited to this world, but even beyond this world. Like, one simple way to understand this is, it is like the gold in all golden ornaments. Gold is one from which all ornaments emerge, and by which all ornaments are sustained, and into which they go back when melted. Gold is transcendent because transcendent means it goes beyond the ornaments, because even if there is no ornament, just a lump of gold, the gold still exists. In the same way, God exists without the world, but the world cannot exist without God. It's not that God created this world and then sitting somewhere in a place called heaven or Vaikuntha as an emperor handing down edicts like most conventional religions believe in. The Upanishads and Gita do not believe in a God that's far removed from this world, but one who is immanent, residing in the heart of every living being and expressing as a life principle. This is not anything new to us. Actually, when we sing Arati, what do you always say? Tum ho yek agochar sabke pranapati. Sabke pranapati means who is sustaining the lives of all of us. And of course, in his purest form, he cannot be seen by the senses. You cannot perceive him in the conventional way. But does it mean that you cannot experience God? You can experience God. And the saints have amply illustrated that. But you need the eye of knowledge to see Him. That's why even in Gita chapter 11, Lord Krishna says, before he shows the Vishwarupa, he says, the mortal eyes can't see, so I'll give you like a special vision to see my universal form. So, even when you look at some of the mundane things, you can't see all the stars with your eyes, but if you have a telescope, you can see it. Similarly, if you want to examine some bacteria, some germs and things like that, you need a microscope. Just because you can't see the germ with naked eyes, you can't say germs don't exist. So that is a special vision that you need to see and experience the Lord. So, how can I constantly remember the Lord? Does it mean I should give up all worldly activities and spend my time only on God? Of course not, as it is extremely difficult for 99.999% of people like us, as all of us need to take care of ourselves and our families. Sri Ramakrishna says, the secret to constantly remembering the Lord while actively engaged in the world is to divinize all human interactions and to humanize all your divine interactions. What does that mean? While you are bathing your little son or daughter, imagine that you are doing Abhishekam to the Lord, because the God element is there in the child as well. When you are cooking food for your family, imagine that you are making Naivedyam for the Lord. When you are serving food to your family, imagine that you are feeding the Lord, and so forth. Even when you are disciplining a child for some wrong behavior, you are doing it for the benefit of the child, not to take out your frustration with something that did not go well at work. Swami Sarvapriyananda of the Ramakrishna order shares a little story illustrating how this can be practiced in our day-to-day lives. When he was passing through the Lucknow airport late at night, it was already like 10:30, 11. I think he was the only passenger or maybe one of a handful. You all know Lucknow, right, in India? It's the capital of a state called Bihar. And Bihar is Patna, Lucknow is UP. Yes. UP. So he was passing through that, and there was nobody else. The head of the security, he came to him and said, Swami, give us a lecture. He said, in the airport at this time? But they insisted, So they immediately came up with a makeshift podium for him. He stood on that. And he said, before you come to work, all the people, the security people huddled around him. And he asked the head of the security, before you come to work in the morning, do you offer any kind of a prayer to the Lord? He said, Hanuman ji ko phool chadate hain. That means I offer some flowers to Hanuman ji. So he said, that's great. From now on, what you do is, anytime there is a person approaching the security, he has to pass through security. You do a very professional but very polite job, treating him as a manifestation of the Lord himself. And after you are done, mentally offer a flower at the feet of Lord Hanuman. He said, wow, din bhar Hanuman ji ki puja. So the whole day I am going to worship Lord Hanuman. So what I am saying is, devotion does not mean doing different things, but doing things with a different attitude. Treat everybody that you come across in life as a manifestation of the Lord. Treat them with respect, treat them with love. Similarly, we talked about divinizing human actions, right? And the flip side of that is humanize all divine interactions. Establish some kind of relationship with the Lord, like you do with a family member or a friend. Again, when we sing the Arati, what do we say? Mata pita tum mere. I treat you as my father. I treat you as my mother. If you can establish that kind of relationship, that will be phenomenal. You belong to the God's family. So God is there to take care of you. That does not mean that you don't have ups and downs of life. But He will give you the mental strength and courage to withstand the ups and downs of life. For example, in the case of Hanumanji, he is like a servant to the Lord. When you look at Meera or the gopis, he is the beloved. In the case of Arjuna, he is a friend. And in the case of Sri Ramakrishna, he was like a child of Mother Kali. So anytime Sri Ramakrishna faced a hardship, he used to cry in front of the mother, asking her to intervene and help like a child. Once he broke his arm, and he wept in front of Mother Kali like a child, since he could not bear the pain, asking her to heal it quickly. Whatever you do in the world, continue to do, but consider that as an interaction with the Supreme Lord. Here is a story about Sant Kabir that demonstrates this idea. He was a weaver by profession. Every day he used to buy cotton for like 3 rupees, weave the fabric, and then go to the market and sell it for 5 rupees. And with a small profit of 2 rupees, he used to support his family. One day, he had such a hard time selling the cloth even for the nominal price. One man noticed this from a distance, came to him and said, "You don't know how to sell. Watch me do it." And right in front of his eyes, he sold the same piece of cloth for 8 rupees. Of course, using some dishonest ways. And he said, "You get it? Next time onwards, you can make a lot more money." And Sant Kabir said, "I can't do that, because I see the divinity even in the buyers of this piece of cloth. So it's like I'm transacting with God Himself, so I cannot cheat, I cannot be dishonest." And then he said, "You made 8 rupees, give me my 5 rupees and you keep the 3 rupees. I don't want that extra 3 rupees. And of course, if you want to ask for something, don't ask other human beings, ask God directly. I don't want to take too much of your time, but most of you probably know the story of a fakir and Akbar. Fakir, he did not have any means, but he wanted to actually entertain a bunch of guests. So one day he goes to Akbar, and they said, "You have to wait," because Akbar is in the prayer room, he is praying. So he waited, and in the time that he is waiting, he heard Akbar praying to the Lord, saying that, "Please give me more riches, please give me more kingdom." So he finished his prayer and met the fakir. Akbar came and met the fakir, and the fakir started walking away. He called him and he said, "You came here for something?" He said, "Yeah, I came here to actually ask you for some money, but I have seen you asking for the same thing from the Lord. So instead of asking you, I can directly ask the Lord." So he went away. So basically, if you want something in life, ask the Lord. Another interesting aspect of this devotee, as your love grows for God, you want to know more about Him. And the more you know about Him, your love for the Lord grows even more. You want to hear His stories, sing His glories, and you want to know more about Him by reading texts like Bhagavatam and other Puranas. And I'm sure, the same thing happens in all our human relationships and friendships. If you like somebody, you go to their Facebook page, you want to know more about them. As you know more about them, your fondness for them grows. That's how sometimes people fall in love. As our understanding of the immanent and transcendent God takes roots, our devotion to the Lord grows deeper and matures into supreme devotion. The key point to remember is do not become complacent with the progress that you have made to date and stagnate, but to keep moving forward. I'll tell you another interesting story about Sri Ramakrishna. He tells a story of a woodcutter in India who comes across a saint, and the saint tells him, move forward. So he didn't know what actually it meant, but the next day, as he went into the forest, he remembered that word, move forward. And so instead of cutting trees in his usual area, he went a little ahead and found a sandalwood tree. Of course, he cut it, and he made a lot of money on that day. Then, after like a couple of days, again he remembered this, and instead of stopping at the sandalwood tree area, he went ahead and found a silver mine. And then, of course, he carried as much as he could, and he started becoming rich. After a week or something, again he went past the silver mine, and he found some golden nuggets lying along a river bank. So he collected all that gold, and of course he became very rich now. And then after another week, he went past the golden river area where he found the gold, and then he found a lot of gems and diamonds. So the moral of the story is don't stop when you look at the progress you have made, but keep going until finally we achieve our goal. Hum honge kamyab ek din. Have that faith in yourself. We talked about as you move further in your devotional journey, your devotion will ripen into supreme devotion. What does supreme devotion mean? Narada Bhakti Sutra number 5 says, Sarvada sarvabhavena nischintataihi bhagavaneva bhajaniyaha. So in all times, in all ways, contemplating on God, forsaking all kinds of worries because you are part of God's family. You know God is there to take care of you. What if after practicing Bhakti Yoga for some time, if I still want to pursue Jnana Yoga, to contemplate and abide in that Nirguna Brahman, the Absolute Self? And of course, if that is your choice, Lord Krishna says, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam pyantite. That means I will give them the yoga of knowledge, that is Jnana Yoga, so that they can attain my attributeless self. So basically, even if you want to switch gears at some point in time, the Bhakti path will lead to that fulfillment. One thing I want you to know is when we talk about devotion, our temples form the backbone of this devotional aspect of our lives and also serve as a cultural hub, like celebrating different festivals and community activities. So please help support your Hindu temple of Antelope Valley so that they can keep running this place for our benefit and bring more programs like this to all of us. Now that we all appreciate the glory of the Lord's name, you want to do a little Nama Sankirtan in the form of a bhajan? Okay. Let's do a small bhajan. I know we are running pretty close to the time, but I'll take 2 minutes and then we'll wrap up. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Hari Bol. You can repeat after me. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Hari Bol. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Hari Bol. मुकुंद माधव गोविंद बोल, मुकुंद माधव गोविंद बोल, मुकुंद माधव गोविंद बोल। केशव माधव गोविंद बोल, केशव माधव, केशव माधव गोविंद बोल, मुकुंद माधव गोविंद बोल। हरि बोल, हरि बोल, हरि हरि बोल, मुकुंद माधव गोविंद बोल। एक प्रभु के अनेक नाम, एक प्रभु के, एक प्रभु के अनेक नाम, प्रेम से बोलो जय जय राम, प्रेम से बोलो जय जय राम। केशव बोल, केशव बोल, मुकुंद माधव गोविंद बोल, मुकुंद माधव गोविंद बोल, मुकुंद माधव गोविंद बोल। That is the end of my talk, and I would like to open it up for any questions you may have.
How much longer is Kali Yuga? How many more years?
Say that again?
How many more years is Kali Yuga?
I don't know. That is academic for me, because we want to attain liberation in this life, and we have to look at how many more years we have left in our lives. Those are some of the statistical aspects which I don't really focus on. What is in it for me? That is what I look at. Yeah.
You said God is pervasive in everything, right? And when we say everything is good or bad, and I think everybody, all of us has some good and some bad. But when we see somebody, let's say, typified as a shaitana or something, but we should still see God in there. So God is also in there. So maybe perhaps we should look some good side of even persons who might consider bad. And that's one way to look at it, because God is all pervasive, good or bad.
Correct. Actually, the Upanishadic God that we talk about is like sunlight. The sunlight, it provides a forum for people to do actions. And depending on our own individual tendencies, we either do good actions or bad actions. And unfortunately, wherever you see light, you also see shadows. Because certain people who have done bad actions, they have to get bad results. And if everybody is very holy and pure, how do they pay a price for their bad actions? So God, in all his benevolence, he just provides the substratum for people to act. But by himself, he is beyond good and evil. But in the world, when once the nature does its things, it's also part of what we call the divine power, Maya. Because of the Maya, you see the good and bad. But when once people go beyond their karma, then we transcend that good and bad concept. For example, unfortunately, there are wildfires, but we also know that because of wildfires, the forest actually rejuvenates. When you look in a very limited time frame, we say that is really bad, but there is a beneficial side to it, which we can't see from our limited point of view. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
So in tangential to what you said, the word telescope you mentioned and the scientists in the Vedanta tradition, so you may be familiar with John Dobson, who was part of the Vedanta Society here. He was a monk in the Vedanta Society. He invented a Dobsonian telescope, which is very popular among
I think somebody said there is a conflict between science and spirituality, but only in the initial stages. If you advance further in science or spirituality, you find a lot of harmony between them. And like Dalai Lama said, they play complementary roles. Vivekananda actually said, never teach religion to a person on a hungry stomach, because when they are struggling for their day-to-day survival and existence, the higher concepts, they don't make sense. So there is a role that science plays, as I said at the very beginning, to make our lives comfortable. Look at the initial settlers, what kind of natural elements they had to face and how many perished. But science plays a very important role, but don't just get confined to it, because then you are losing that foreign exchange before you embark on your next journey.
It's interesting, like when I see so much of more commonness in science and spirituality. So every time you look at spirituality, there's so much of science behind it. And like even when we go to Navgraha here, and we put some clothes there, they really follow the colors of the light. And in a series, GYOR, like Vibgyor, so green, yellow, orange, red, and so like when I'm putting some of the clothes in Navgraha, I observed that. I'm like, oh my God, this was not there. But there has to be something. Science is just like what we believe, what we see. And spirituality is something which we don't see, but we still believe.
Yes.
And so.
And of course, this is all the divine play. Even when you play with your children and all that, sometimes you intentionally hide in a place where they can't find, and it's a lot of torture for them. But once they find you, the joy is immense. The harder it is for them to find, the more joy they get. So it's all the divine play. In Gita also there is a verse that says, Mama Maya Duratyaya. My Maya is very, very difficult to overcome. But it says, Mame ve prapadyante Maya me tam tarandite. Whoever takes refuge at my feet, they will transcend this Maya. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa gives a very simple example, Remember in India, the fishermen, they throw a net, and the fish that escape are the ones that are at the feet of the fisherman. He can never catch those fish. So in the same way, it says, if you take refuge at the Lord's feet, this Maya doesn't do anything to you. If there are no further questions, I will conclude with a peace chant. Please join me if you know. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhar Bhavet. What that means is, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah means, may all be happy. Sarve Santu Niramaya means, may all be healthy. Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu means, may all see auspiciousness. Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhar Bhavet. Let there not be an iota of sorrow in people's lives. Om, peace, peace, peace. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you very much for giving me your time and the opportunity to share some of my thoughts with you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. There is a snack at the back, so please grab something for you. But obviously we can't eat here, so please take it to your car and eat.